CDH Films presents an animated storybook retold with Legos, The Last Olympian, Book 5 and final of Percy Jackson and the Olympians, from the original novel by Rick Riordan, narrated to you by me, Chris. It had been a year since the big battle at Camp Half-Blood, and Percy Jackson didn't spend too much time at the camp this summer. Instead, he made a lot of time to hang out with Rachel Elizabeth Dare, his only mortal friend. But Percy knew he would soon have to make time for other things, preparations for the ultimate battle with Kronos. It was already August, and the time was very close. Percy and his mom Sally and his new stepdad Paul had taken Rachel with them south to the beach in Montauk. While Sally and Paul tried to catch some alone time, Paul let Percy drive his car down the beach road for practice, and Rachel went with him. It was pretty surprising to Percy that Paul would trust him alone with the car, and Percy wasn't even 16 yet. That was another thing stuck on Percy's mind. His 16th birthday was on August 18th, and that was just a few days away. Which also meant that would be the time when he would have to make a single choice that would either save or destroy the world. Also, Rachel's family was going on vacation to the Caribbean and was inviting Percy to come along. But Percy wasn't even sure if there would be any time for that with the fate of the world on his hands. Rachel did know all about it, but he was still worried about disappointing her. "You'd be doing me a great favor if you came," she told him. "Also, there's this thing I've been needing to talk to you about. She didn't get to finish, because just then, the day and the car was ruined by a big crunch. On top of the hood stood a big winged horse. It was Percy's Pegasus, Blackjack, and he was driven by Percy's friend, Charles Beckendorf. "Hey, boss," Blackjack said, telepathically. "Well, I guess you'll have to go then," said Rachel. "Go on, go save the world for me. I'll make something up about the car." Even if that would work somehow, Percy figured Paul would never trust him with the car again. Right before he left, Rachel left him with a pretty unexpected, real spine-tingling kiss. Then he hopped onto Blackjack and they flew down the horizon. Percy wondered what it was that Rachel wanted to tell him, and if he lived long enough to find out. "I'm guessing you don't want me to share that little scene back there with anyone?" Beckendorf asked him. "Not with anyone in particular, like Annabeth?" "Oh gods, don't even think about it," Percy said. "It's cool, man. Your secret's safe with me." They zoomed out into the Atlantic, and it was almost dark when they spotted their target. Seeing the Princess Andromeda again gave Percy a burn up his spine. Escaping from there twice was bad enough. Percy always remembered how Andromeda was the bride of the original Perseus. Naming that cruise ship after her was like an insult. It was as if Luke was trying to say, "Hey, Percy Jackson ruined our plans. Let's go get revenge by hurting everyone he loves." But he stayed focused. They circled the ship and they landed on the lowest stern deck. Then Percy told Blackjack to go and not wait for them. Blackjack was too big to fit in most places inside the ship anyway, plus Percy could always control the seawater to carry them back home. "Okay, good luck, boss," he called to Percy. "Don't let him turn you into horse meat." Beckendorf took out a piece of paper and frowned. It was a picture of his girlfriend, Selena Beauregard. "Hey, it'll be okay," Percy told him. "We'll make it out. You'll see her again." Yeah, you bet," he replied. "Let's go slice Kronos back into 1,000,000 pieces." They tiptoed 2 floors down, and Beckendorf forced open the engine room door. Inside, rows of pumping machines lined the walls. Beckendorf pulled out some jars of green liquid. The one-of-a-kind Greek fire, a magical fire that couldn't be put out with water or a fire extinguisher. They tied the jars to the consoles. Beckendorf had a built-in remote-controlled detonator in his watch, so when he pushed the right button, the fire jars would explode and incinerate the whole ship into nothing. From around the corner, they could hear screaming and roaring. Some monsters must have already discovered the hatch had been breached. "Percy, we can't let them find the jars just yet," Beckendorf warned. "We need time to get a safe distance from the ship before I can blow them." Then Percy, without thinking, decided they should split up to draw the monsters away from the bombs, and he ran out of the room without another word. Just as he exited the room, a Dracaena spotted him and screamed, alerting more monsters. He made it up to the open deck and as far as a familiar swimming pool when he was blocked by a second mob. Monsters and enemy demigods had him surrounded.
Well,
said a familiar voice.
"You're late, Percy Jackson."
His old enemy, Luke Castellan, now possessed by Kronos, the Lord of Time, appeared right behind him. He spoke in the deep, ancient, intimidating voice of Kronos.
"Come bow before me."
Yeah, like that's gonna happen, Percy thought. He shut his eyes for a second, and then, without warning, Luke's followers fell off their feet as the ship shook to one side. Percy had willed the currents to shake the boat, knocking everyone over, except for Kronos. Now it was a fair fight, and Percy charged at the Titan. Kronos swung his scythe, but Percy dodged it. But what Percy didn't notice until a second later was that the scythe left a straight line of blood on his shoulder. He felt like his entire body was burning up. Percy remembered learning how Kronos' scythe can make you feel like part of your soul was sliced apart just from one touch of the blade. Now he understood why. He felt his strength, his will, even his identity draining away.
"Quite a shame you won't live long enough to see how I will destroy Olympus, as well as your servant with the explosives,"
Kronos said. Behind him, a giant and a demigod were dragging Beckendorf across the floor, and he looked totally beaten up. And the kid who was holding him? Percy recognized him from last year. It was Ethan Nakamura, who had helped Luke become Kronos' new host in the first place. Kronos ordered them to check Beckendorf's bag for the Greek fire jars. But the bag was empty. There weren't any jars to be found. Kronos glared at Ethan so intimidatingly, Ethan was too scared to stick around to see what he would do next. Slowly, Percy began to understand. Beckendorf had tricked them. When he realized he was going to be captured, he ran the other way. He had convinced them that he hadn't made it to the engine room yet. The Greek firebomb jars were still down there, waiting to be set off. Beckendorf gestured at his wrist. The watch. Thank the Olympians they didn't take it. They must have not realized it was the trigger. The plan could still work. They could still set off the bombs and kill the monsters, but they had to get off the ship.
"Well, it no longer matters, Percy Jackson," Kronos said. "I've been expecting you here for weeks, and I finally have you now."
He held up a string with a scythe-shaped charm on it. Percy muttered, "The communication device. The spy at camp." The Titan chuckled.
"You cannot count on friends, Percy Jackson. They will always let you down. Luke learned that the hard way. Now drop your sword and surrender to me, or your friend dies."
Percy was in no shape to fight or to run to Beckendorf and rescue him. Either way, he would die before Percy could reach him. Then Beckendorf mouthed one word.
"Go."
Percy just realized since Ethan ran off, Beckendorf's right arm was free. He raised it slowly and held his finger on the surface of the button. Percy had no choice. He just flipped over the side of the ship and fell 100 feet down the water. Beckendorf hit the button, and the whole ship exploded so loudly it must have been heard from miles. The explosion pushed Percy across the ocean, and everything went black.